What's up, guys? It's Chris from Pursuit of Possibility. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to sharing positive perspective and practical strategies to live life fully. This is my favorite portion of the channel. It's called Inspiring Interviews. I bring on great people like my friend Lee here today to share their insights and perspectives. Lee is awesome. He is a sales enablement Sherpa and a professional amateur athlete. He's going to talk a little bit about the power of context setting today to live a full, authentic, and powerful life. Lee, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So today's conversation is all about context setting. You really piqued my interest, Lee. Could you start out by sharing some anecdotes or perspective on like what context setting actually is?
Sure. Well, let's talk about what a context is. And so a context, in the context that we're talking about, is kind of your North Star. It's your intent. It's your mindset, whether or not you are conscious of that mindset. So a large context might be, I'm here to help people. A small context might be, let me get through the day. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a real difference between those two contexts. And so contexts are really powerful in that even while you might not be conscious of your context, you always have one. And if you have a large context, you can accomplish a lot more than if you have a small context.
That's really powerful and just a very succinct way of putting it. So it sounds like you could have a big, larger context and vision and a shorter term context of like, hey, let's just get through the day. And what you're saying is that just like habits, like if you're not actively choosing your context, you might default to a context that really isn't helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any like stories from your life that kind of put into perspective like a good context versus a bad one?
No.
Okay, perfect. Let me do a song and dance over here. Hey, you know what? Let me tell you a quick thing, guys. I did an improv class when I was in Austin, Texas, to try and actually get better at these types of things, like these interviews. And it's just helpful for sales too, like, Lee, dancing the conversation. And we talked in improv a bit, like you really need to like focus on the other person and you're trying to enable and lift people up and like give them the next thing. And they said, never say no to someone. Oh my God. Anyways, I thought it was funny.
So I tend to live a pretty powerful context usually, and sometimes it's conscious and sometimes it's not conscious. I'll give you an example of the typically powerful context that I hold, and holding a context is a conscious decision. So 6 or 7 years ago on my birthday, I was asked to go to a friend's house and help them move a sofa. So I got my cyclocross bike out of the garage and took it out. This was September. Cyclocross season hadn't started yet, so I hadn't prepared my bike for that particular bike for use. So the tires were low, and I knew the tires were low, but I said, I'm only going around the block, so no problem. So I go down to the end of my street and I take the first turn and I wipe out. And I get up and my elbow was cut to shit. By the way, can I swear? My elbow was cut to shit.
This is a kind of a no filter environment, so we can have fun with it.
Good, thanks. So, I asked once,
what does that look like? Was it like gouged really deep, or?
Yeah, no, it was just cut here. It wasn't good.
Oh, okay.
So speaking of swearing, by the way, I'll pull your thread. Speaking of swearing, I was facilitating a workshop with about 50 sales reps at my old company back when we actually had in-person workshops. And I'm wandering around the room talking, and I said, "Is it okay for me to swear in here?" And someone said, "F yeah." And his manager looked up and said, "No, not at that level." It's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to get you into that.
That's too funny. And I've heard there are articles that talk about how swearing is more authentic. I'm not saying I'm encouraging swearing. By the way, I lived in Boston. Were you ever in Boston with Oracle as well? Yeah. Okay. And I was at top of the hub, the most beautiful view of the city, beautiful restaurant. My buddy from Florida, childhood friend, was visiting me. He's like, dude, like there's kids around here and you're like dropping more F-bombs than ever before. And I think Boston rubbed off on me. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying take it to an extreme, but I also think there's some degree of authenticity to cussing. Don't you think?
Well, I mean, they say that people that swear are smarter. So I'm just sticking with that.
Yeah, I feel like also it's like they write articles to justify our bad habits.
Well, so but here's the thing: 97% of statistics are made up.
Don't you think they're made from the lens of like, let me justify something? It's like our cognitive biases in our brain, like
Of course.
confirmation bias. You buy a car and you're not really happy with it. You spent a lot, but then you do everything you can. Your brain collects the evidence to justify that, oh, this was the right move. Or I broke up with this person and then you're regretting it, but like you justify, like, you know what, like for this reason, it was a good move. Like, don't you think like researchers probably look through a similar lens? Like we want to prove like this is right, like you drinking beer is good for you.
Maybe some researchers. I used to be a researcher, so let's open that can of worms. So anyway, I'm standing there by the side of the road with blood dripping down my elbow, right? And I get back on my bike and I ride to my friend's house, and we move this. I asked for a Band-Aid, and we move the sofa. Task complete, and I go to the ER, right? And this is my birthday, right? And it's a Sunday morning. It's
really
fucking gorgeous out.
What day is your birthday?
September 16th.
Okay.
And I'm, and I'm at the ER, and the good news was, because it was a nice Sunday morning, nobody else was there. So I was in and out in 3 hours.
Silver lining.
Pardon?
Silver lining.
Yeah. Great.
Right.
So, so I got a tetanus shot. I got 3 stitches in my elbow, and I walk out of the business part of the ER back out into the waiting room. And this young woman behind the counter says, try to have a better day, because obviously I was all bandaged up, etc.
Right.
And I look at her and I go, I'm choosing to have a great day. And her head explodes, right? Yeah. Just like that. It was amazing. And that was the power of context for me. I was holding the context of life is great. I was holding the context of it's a gorgeous day. I was holding the context of shit happens, right?
Like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. And this woman behind the desk was holding a very different context of, oh, I'm so sorry for that person. Now, I could have taken her context and made it mine, and then I would have had a sucky day.
Oh, I got to interject. We project our own context and emotions and insecurities onto other people.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm not trying to throw this person under the bus. It's very sweet. She wanted you to have a better day, but maybe she projected how she thought or she might have felt in your shoes onto you when in fact you had a powerful context. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So she was she was doing her best to empathize with me, and God bless her, right? She was doing her job. She was trying to make me feel better. But you can choose to be happy, or you can not choose to be happy. I was choosing to be happy, right? Because in the great scheme of things, I had a couple of stitches in my arm. I also got a brand new tetanus shot, so I'm protected for 5 years or 10 years. And
and then hey, I got a story to tell on a live stream interview with Pursuit of Possibility to inspire a bunch of people.
That's right.
Hey, by the way, that's one of my things. By the way, is like do it for the story.
Yeah.
One of my themes, if I write a book, and I'd like to one day, is like how problems are opportunities. It's all in the way you look at it and spin it. Yeah. And all of my biggest life challenges turned into something nice, just like a tapestry on the back, it's chaotic and full of knots, but on the front, it gives you that beautiful image. So little tangent there, but man, I just think your context setting is powerful, and a lot of good comes from what seems to be initially bad.
Yeah. So here's the power of context. That if you're in a meeting, let's say a sales meeting. If you're in a sales meeting with a customer,
quick note, I'll have a meeting right after this. So
so this might be real. So if you're in a meeting with a customer and the meeting goes sideways, which I'm sure it's never happened to you. It's happened to me. It's never happened to you. Right? The meeting goes sideways. If you're holding a weak context, that meeting is going to crash and burn, most likely. Because you don't have any control over it. You don't have any power over it. You will go down with that ship. On the other hand, if you have a powerful context, there's some universal force that brings things back around to being good. So if I'm preparing for a sales call or an interview or whatever, I'll write my context at the top of my notepad. And every so often I'll just look down at it. I don't have to say it out loud. I don't have to think about it. I just look down at it. And invariably, if something was going off the rails, it brings me back on. So why? Right? And the reason is that a context isn't just a context. So I use a process called the CPR, the context, purpose, and results. When you create a context using that process, you're actually creating a set of results, a set of goals that you're working towards. And when you remind yourself of those goals and your purpose for being there, it brings the conversation back to, it brings your mindset and the conversation back to where you want it to go. Now, so let's talk about sales calls. So what's one result that you might generate on a sales call?
You get buy-in for a next step.
Right.
In the case of my call that I'm literally having after this live stream, I'm getting a yes or no on migrating a specific workload to Google Cloud. They'd spend more. They'd move forward on it.
So you could get a yes or a no. From a results standpoint, is a yes better than a no?
Absolutely, like period results.
Yeah. So is a no a good result as well? Is a no better than a maybe?
Yes, an answer is better than a maybe.
Right. So disqualify early. My old friend Jacques Worth, disqualify early.
Yeah.
So one result for a sales call might be, identify next steps. Another result might be disqualify. Another result might be close the deal. Another result might be get a referral. Now, some of those are mutually incompatible. You can't close the deal and disqualify at the same time. But both of those are good results, right? Disqualifying is a perfectly good result. Why? Because now you have more time for customers that aren't disqualified, that are better prospects.
Absolutely.
Right? So the process that we use is to first come up with a set of results, 5 or 10 results. And I do this for meetings. Like if I'm facilitating a meeting of 10 or 20 or 50 people, if I'm doing a presentation to 1,000 people, if I'm having a difficult conversation with one of my kids, I'll come up with a list of 5 or 10 results that I want to generate. And again, some of them are positive, some of them can sound negative, although disqualifying a customer isn't necessarily negative. They can be mutually exclusive. And so first I have these results. There are various things that I can choose that I expect might happen. And it's the same. It's kind of the same thing of when you start a meeting, you say, what do we want to achieve, right? Yeah. Results are kind of what we want to achieve. The second step is to think about the purpose of that activity, right? So sales activity. Well, the purpose of the sales activity is to move the conversation forward so that we can solve the customer's problem, so that we can make more money, right? So, but we want to have a good, strong, powerful purpose that everyone can share in, right? And so making more money might not be part of our purpose.
It's a mutually beneficial outcome.
Say again?
It's a mutually beneficial outcome.
Right.
Really, that's what we're striving towards.
Right. And so from there, then you say, okay, what is the context? What's the mindset that supports those results and supports that purpose? And you want to test your context against those results. Do the results make sense to your context? Right? And so then again, a small context is get through this meeting. Right? A big context is, and this is my favorite, and this is my default setting when I don't actively look for a different context. My default context is together we win.
I love that. I have to say that I'm reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I've got a series that I'm going to be working on to share nuggets from the book, the whole book. Yeah. And I know it talks about moving from independence and personal victories to public victories and becoming truly interdependent and creating win-win scenarios. Did you draw that from that book, or what kind of? Okay. No. And could you expand a little more?
Say again?
Could you expand on the concept a little more?
Sure. So the purpose of the context really is to be that North Star of where are we going. And again, for me, it's together we win, because typically I'm in a partnership role or I'm in a supporting role. So as a sales enablement Sherpa, I don't go to the top of the mountain and take the selfie, right? Where's the camera? And take the selfie, right? I'm the one carrying the load so that the sales team can take those selfies. Right? We all get to the top of the mountain. It's not my job to celebrate getting to the top of the mountain. My job is to celebrate getting the sales team to the top of the mountain. And so they close the business, they bring the revenue into the company, together we win. And by the way, the customer has to win too, right? So together we win. And I'll sit down with a customer and say, let's talk about what's important to you, right? I had a conversation with the CIO at it was PNC Financial in Pittsburgh. And I said, I've studied your business. I think that you're not committed to saving money. And he looked at me and I said, I think you're committed to making jobs for people. And he goes, yeah. PNC Financial has been in Pittsburgh for 150 years, taking care of the finances of the well-to-do in Pittsburgh. And as an offshoot of that, they've set themselves up as kind of an informal institution of learning for financial people and technology people. So the company I was with came in and said, we can help you cut costs. And by cutting costs, we mean we can help you cut headcount. Well, that's not cool. That's not their mission. And so when I said, we can help you provide an environment where more people do interesting stuff. And by the way, it's good for the bank, and it's good for the people, and it's good for you, and it will also be good for us. That's win-win.
Yeah, that is a win for the customer on multiple dimensions, you know. And so I could think about how I could apply that in my conversation after this to understand, even just hearing from the customer, what's in it for them, like what's their mission, what's the vision, how does this tie in, like why are we even doing this,
Right. So there's two things that we've talked about in the past. One is, what are the results that customers want to generate, for them individually and for them as an organization? And then two, what's their language of value? Is it good, better, best? Is it cheap? Is it performance? Is it getting ahead? Is it being competitive?
People.
Right? So I'll give you an example. So language of value is very personal. So if I went to my wife, for instance, and I said, honey, I want to get the new Porsche Cayman to race on the track because it's a mid-engine car. And because it's a mid-engine car, it'll be faster around the track. It handles better. It's much faster than my current car. She would say no, right? Performance isn't her language of value.
Yeah.
Cost management is her language of value. So a better conversation to have would be, honey, I want to get the new Porsche Cayman. Because it's a mid-engine car, it'll be more gentle on tires and brakes. And so as a result, it will be less expensive to maintain over a season, right? So that's her language of value. It's cost management. Of course, the answer, is still no. But at least I use her language of value.
Yeah, so, a little bit. And, you're kind of creating an opportunity in her world, versus like projecting what you care about onto
exactly.
So.
Exactly. So I would invite people to practice writing their own context, purpose, and results. And again, start backwards for your next sales call. Write down 5 results that you think might happen as a result. You might want to have happen as a result of that event. And then think about a purpose that would support those results. And then come up with the context, that North Star or that overall intent that supports that those results. And I'll tell you a funny story about context or intent. And sometimes we almost use those words interchangeably. Yeah. When I was first out of school, I was working for a company called Tweeter, et cetera, in Boston, and I was selling hi-fi in the Chestnut Hill Mall. This was like 100 years ago, back when Victrolas were crank up things, right? So I was fresh out of college. I didn't have any formal sales experience, and I had a really good sales manager, and he said, "You have to ask for the order." Right? Because I was just being friendly to the customers. You have to ask for the order. You have to want the business.
Hey, I gotta say, Lee, it's like when I started at Oracle, we both come from Oracle. Like I feel like I was just the nice guy. Like I love talking to people and customers. We had great conversations, but someone said you got to be a little more money motivated, or you got to ask for the order. But anyways, continue on.
Yeah. So I took. I mean, so my manager was Paul, and he. And he was a great coach. So I took his advice to heart. And so the next time someone came in the door, I said, I'm going to think of them as a bag of groceries, right? My context is going to be money, and not just money, but what does this do for me, right? That next person that comes in can help me get my groceries. So this couple came in. It was a woman and her daughter, and her daughter was like a teenager, and the woman was, I don't know. But the Chestnut Hill Mall is a well-to-do area, right? So these were people that like were accustomed to being well taken care of, and so my context was, you are a bag of groceries, right? And I swear, after about 15 seconds, they literally turned and ran out the store. I don't remember what I said. They came in and asked about portable stereos, and literally within 15 or 30 seconds, they figured out I had a really bad context, and wow. Boom, they ran. And that's the power of a negative context. So here's the deal. You always have a context. If you're not conscious of your context, it might not be as powerful or as positive as it could be. When you set a strong, powerful context, like together we win, then great things happen.
Yeah, we might not even be aware that we have a negative context that is pervading what we do, but maybe we could look to the reactions of people around us, like mm-hmm. you said, the people fleeing, and maybe that's a cue. Okay, something's not right.
Something ain't working.
Right. But this has been so helpful, Lee, because I could think of how we could apply context setting to almost all aspects of our life, really all aspects. Yeah. Especially those high performance moments. And we've got a lot of people in the audience that are, maybe they're at Google or Oracle or tech companies or teachers, are doing a lot of different things, that are people that are performing. I don't want to say performing, life's not all about that, but doing well, but looking to take their life to the next level. And I could see how this could be applied to like an important speech or presentation, a sales call, a first date, or an important conversation with a loved one.
Yeah. So the movie Hitch, speaking of first dates, it reminds me of the movie Hitch, where the difference between a very negative context of I want to nail that person, and a very powerful context of I want to get to know that person, and then nail them. But
if it works out, it's a win-win, right? But the thing is, people can sense it. Like in business, tying back to business. If I am focused on short-term transaction and money in my pocket, they can sniff it a mile away.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, I want to come from a context of a win-win and long-term relationships. The same with dating, honestly. But it's so people can really sniff it out.
Right.
When it's focused all on me, self-orientation. Right. And I do think the highest level of existence really is, one is, surrendering to life as chaotic and beautiful as it can be. But most importantly, getting off ourselves, like putting the ego aside and focusing on enabling others. And you are literally an enabler. You've enabled me and other sales folks and other people, and you're doing that through the channel. Yeah. So,
Cool. So we talked in preparation for this about getting in action. And so I want to make a request of the audience. Go off and do this. Create a CPR. Write up a series of results. Write up a purpose statement. Write up your context. See how it works. Then send it to me. I want to hear how it worked. Send it to cpr@levitts.org, LEVITTS.org. And I'm just curious to see how it comes off for you.
Guys, let's try it out. Leave some comments. I'm going to post this to YouTube afterwards with your results and what you think. But definitely reach out to Lee directly and check him out, Lee Levitt, on LinkedIn. I mean, what a name, by the way, great ring to it. But Lee, this has been awesome, man. Great stories. And what was great about today is practical application. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the opportunity. Hey, you know what? Together we win.
Absolutely, man. Together we win. And that the same goes for the audience. Guys, thanks for your time. Make sure to, throw a like, a comment, a subscribe if you're looking for more doses of positivity and great interviews with folks like Lee. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Thanks, Lee.